You may have heard Stugotz mutter under his breath there. Delightful. You have no idea how delightful it is to see that face. Look how happy we are around here, Kurkjian.
Hall of Famer! H-O-F!
Yes!
H-O-F!
Yes!
Coming down!
Yes, you are the story. You've never wanted to be the story. You're the story. You're the Hall of Famer. Little Tim Kurkjian. Yes! Yes!
Hall of Famer!
Yes!
Hall of Famer!
Yes!
All right, look, I'm not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
I'm in a wing of the Hall of Fame. Johnny Bench is a Hall of Famer. All those guys are Hall of Famers. There is a distinction. I'm never going to sign my autograph or whatever ever again. Tim Kurkjian, Hall of Fame, HOF 2022. It doesn't work that way, and don't start me with that.
Whatever
Timmy,
you say, Hall of Famer.
That's fine. You know who's not in the Hall of Fame? Not in a wing? Barry Bonds,
That's right.
Pete Rose,
That's right.
Roger Clemens.
That's
you know who's
right.
in?
That's
Tim
right.
Bleeping
That's
Kurkjian.
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Better
that
than
is
all
so
of
true. More important to baseball than Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. More distinguished.
Timmy Kurkjian. Oh, Timmy Kurkjian. Oh, Timmy Kurkjian.
Yes, you're
This
writing.
is embarrassing. Stop it.
Listen to
No.
me. You're writing an excellence. You moron. You have dedicated your life, Kurkjian, to box scores. You still cut and paste them because you meticulously care about this game in a way that every expert writing about sports should care about the thing that they're covering. You have grown to learn new mathematics in the game instead of being stubborn about the things you thought you knew. You are excellence personified in this field, as good at what you do as anyone has ever been at what they do in baseball. And you will accept our compliment whether you like it or not, because you are exceptional. Like, you deserve to be a Hall of Famer as a representative and a spokesman and a writer and a media member in that sport.
Well, thank you, Dan. Honestly, thank you for all you guys. But I don't cut out the box scores anymore. There aren't enough box scores in my daily paper anymore. That's why I quit.
Good point.
But I did cut them out every single day for 20 years without missing a day. That is all true. And then when they collapsed my closet with all my clothes due to the weight of all my box scores, I decided maybe I should do something else here. But thank you, Dan, for the kind words. It's very, very nice of you and your guys there.
Does Adam Silver look like a paper? I haven't gotten there yet.
You said Adam Silver, though. I mean,
Does Adam Silver look like a paper towel holder?
He's the lone French fry and a bag of onion rings.
How do you feel about the lockout, Tim? You have lived a lot of labor strife. You're old enough to remember how often we used to do this in baseball. You are covering the business end of this and feeling how about the lockout situation?
Well, like everyone else, I'm not encouraged. And you're right, Dan. I covered the 81 strike. Marvin Miller screamed at me one day like I've never been screamed at before, and I deserved it because I didn't know what I was doing back then, and I'm not sure I know what I'm doing today. It's really difficult trying to follow this, but the bottom line is they got to December the 1st, and they weren't even close to reaching an agreement. And the two sides are so far apart at this point that I'm worried that the next 2 months at least are going to be just trying to pull this together. And then suddenly it's possible spring training will be in danger, opening day will be in danger. But I'm going to take the high road and say there is so much money to be lost here if there is no agreement. One way or another, they'll figure this out. And I hope I'm right about that.
Timmy, why did Marvin Miller yell at you? Who yells at Tim Kurkjian?
Well, I was like 12 years old covering for the Washington Star. I was filling in for Dan Shaughnessy on some things, and I just got some stuff wrong in the paper because I didn't understand what labor was all about. I didn't understand. I was much better talking to a left fielder than a lawyer, believe me. And I just made some mistakes. He read them in the Washington Star and he yelled at me for getting it wrong. And he was right. I got it wrong. It wasn't terribly wrong, but it was off base because I just didn't know what I was doing because I wasn't experienced enough. So, but it wasn't fun being yelled at by Marvin Miller.
Is there someone off the top of your head that you think of yelled at you more or embarrassed you more than that one that you're remembering? Have you been, you're generally, I won't say you're a gentle journalist, but you are a courteous man. You are a courteous journalist. You're not trying to make mistakes. I really can't imagine a whole lot of people yelling at you for any reason whatsoever, because you take great care in your craft. So who else has yelled at you like that?
Well, Rick Burleson yelled at me in 1987 in the Orioles clubhouse. I had written a story the day before on the second base situation, and he was very critical of Alan Wiggins and the way they were using their second baseman. Now, he told me, now look, don't make a big deal out of this story. And I said, Rick, I can't tell you how we're going to play this story. All I know is I'm going to write it fairly and correctly, which I did. And we plastered it across the top of the sports page. And the next night after the game, after he went 3 for 3, I went to ask him a question and he screamed at me for about a minute and a half. It was really embarrassing and it was really bad. And after it was all over, the late Mike Flanagan, great pitcher, great guy, came up to me and said, "Are you all right?" Like that. Like a player came up to me after that because he recognized how bad a scene that was. I've, of course, patched it up with Rick Burleson soon after that. I know him. I like him. He's my friend in baseball, but that was a bad night for me.
Tim, can you tell everybody how big of a deal it is for Buck O'Neil to finally make the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Look, he was a player, he was a manager, he was a coach, he was a scout, but he was a promoter for Negro League Baseball like nobody else. He brought that sport, he brought baseball along so well, and he explained with tremendous storytelling what Negro League Baseball was all about. He should have been in the Hall of Fame years ago. And I know when I wrote my first book and I did a chapter on Negro League Baseball, the first person I called was Buck O'Neil. And he told me story after story, and he told me Jackie Robinson stories. Nobody told a better story than Buck O'Neil, and no one is more deserving of the Hall of Fame than him, and we're all so happy that he's in.
Does Bob Huggins look like a used car dealer who pulls you into his office while negotiating to say, look, I'm actually losing money on this deal? Does Dan Orlovsky look like a youth pastor? He does look like a youth pastor. Does Jim Harbaugh look like the guy at the urinals in the public bathroom who pees with his hands on his hips?
Harbs.
That is a very good one as well. Tim, who do you, this offseason so far, the moves that you have liked, because we're always interested in those, and it would appear that Steve Cohen of the Mets is going to be the flashy new Steinbrenner guy, yes?
Yes, and there's no way around it. The Mets have had a great offseason. They signed Max Scherzer, who was the best pitcher on the market, period. And he's still got 2 really good years left, maybe 3. That's how determined that guy is. They also went and got a third baseman in Eduardo Escobar. They needed him badly. They got Starling Marte to play center field. They got Mark Canha to play left field. They had 4 pretty big holes on the team, and they filled them all. So there's no way around this. Steve Cohen has the money, and he's willing to spend it because he's a fan of the Mets, sometimes maybe too big a fan of the Mets, but good for him for trying and spending money. I'm not sure he's made a lot of friends in the owner business, but he doesn't care. He just wants to win.
Tim, who do you think is going to be the next Mets manager?
I think it'll be Buck Showalter. And I think we're all guessing here still. It will come at the end of this week.
Buck Buck Showalter.
I only asked him for that to get your response to his answer.
And I know Tim Kurkjian loves Buck Showalter, but it is so great, Tim, that they keep him and LaRussa still banging around out there. How old is Buck at this point? I remember when he was an old man as a young man when he was the manager of the Yankees.
White Sox were great this year. I mean,
Yeah, he turned 65 this year. I just turned 65 the other day, so I know because we're born in the same year. Buck is 65, and look, I know you guys make fun of managers and everything.
That was younger than I thought, right, Billy? You thought he was older than that.
Only 65?
I don't believe. I thought he was approaching 80, Tim.
No, and he's a young Look, I'm not going to sit here and defend Buck Showalter. That guy knows more about baseball than anyone I've ever met. He's so observant. He's taught me so much over the years. I think if he gets the job, he'll be great for the Mets. So that's what I think. And he's 65, not 85.
It's the secret to aging. Look 65 at 40.
That's unbelievable. Are you saying you're alleging that Buck Showalter is a young 65? Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at LeBatard Show. Is Buck Showalter a young 65?
I thought he was 65 when he managed the Yankees. I mean,
does Mike McCarthy look like the under pressure mattress salesman who has to hit his quota by the end of the week or he will be fired? Does Bruce Arians look like the impatient store manager who's ready to fire Mike McCarthy at the end of the week if he doesn't hit his quota? Does Rob Ryan look like early retirement in Daytona Beach? He does.
Save that one,
yeah. Does Mike Greenberg look like he never misses an opportunity to clap during the Friends theme song? Put that on.
That's one of the best ones we've ever gotten.
Put that on the poll at LeBatard Show. Guillermo does Mike Greenberg look like he never misses an opportunity to clap during the Friends theme song? Tim, do you hate like the mechanics of the business of the lockout? Like, do you understand what they're fighting over and who's being unreasonable and the minutia? We all understand baseball is very profitable. These television deals are enormous, and they can afford to pay these salaries. That what is it now? A single year for Scherzer is going to cost you how much? $40 million.
43 million. And yes, I'm confused, Dan, because they're fighting over so many things. But one of the big things they're fighting over is free agency and when a player should get to free agency. Now, of course, it's 6 years, which I always thought was great. In baseball, being the hardest game in the world to play, in my mind, you really got to prove yourself in that sport before you really get paid. And it usually takes 6 years to prove yourself. Well, the players are saying, after 6 years, we're 30, 31, 32 years old, some of us, and they're not paying those people like they used to unless you're a great, great player. So the union is saying, all right, we want free agency before 6 years, maybe 5 years, maybe even fewer years than that. And the owners are, of course, pushing back on that. And, of course, the union is saying we need to do something about the manipulation of service time, that if a young player is ready and he belongs in the major leagues, you need to bring him to the major leagues and not keep him in the minor leagues in order to keep control of him for longer in your system. So these are just two of the things that are really going at it. And what it comes down to in a lot of ways is 5 years ago, the owners did really well in the last CBA. And the players feel like they lost and now they want to get everything back. And I just don't think it works that way in a two-way negotiation.
Does Mike Zimmer look like an elf who is really pissed his toy prototype keeps getting rejected over the decades? Does Alex Rodriguez look like a shady, high-priced defense attorney from a prestigious law firm who tells his less wealthy clients that prison isn't nearly as bad as the internet makes it out to be?
pretty good, man.
Does Dan Campbell look like the dad who angrily shouts obscenities at the teenage volunteer umpire at his 10-year-old daughter's softball games? He does.
Now,
right?
that happened to me. My son was a really good umpire. He was umpiring in like at age 16. And some really loud fan at the first game my son did screamed at my son because he didn't call an infield fly rule with a runner on first base, and only a runner on first base with a pop-up to the second baseman. He screamed at my son and said, "What are you doing, ump? That's an infield fly rule," which of course he's wrong about that. So I look back at this guy and he looks at me and he goes, oh, you're the baseball guy, right? And I said, well, he said, "That's an infield fly rule, isn't it?" And I said, "No, it's not an infield fly rule. And that's my son out there, the umpire. You should apologize to him."
Nice.
So
Shut him
after
down.
the game, he did.
Wait, you would go to watch your son umpire games?
Yeah, I was an umpire too, and he was 16, and he asked me if I could come watch him work a game. He was good at it, and it was really part of his, growing up was working with adults, dealing with conflict, all that. He was a really good umpire. So yes, I watched him umpire several games, and I enjoyed it.
Timmy, you were an ump? Because I think that's news to all of us. I'm wondering, did you punch people out? Like, what happened? How would you like call a strikeout?
Look, I wasn't exactly Dutch Rennert back there, but I was emphatic on strike 3. I mean, I would give strike 1, strike 2, and then I would do a little chainsaw on strike 3 like that. But it wasn't showy. It wasn't.
That was an impotent chainsaw. Your chainsaw was pathetic.
It was bad. I told you, but I was in high school, so I told you I brought one of my friends to umpire the bases with me one day, and he wasn't an umpire, and he didn't know anything about baseball because my regular base umpire didn't show up. So I had to bring my friend, so we had 2 umpires, and the bases were loaded late in the game, and the catcher overthrew the pitcher with the bases loaded, and the ball went flying towards center field, and my umpire friend picked it up, caught it, and threw it back to the pitcher, and nobody scored on the play. It was like the stupidest thing I've ever seen, but he didn't know any better. He didn't realize the ball was in play. So we had to keep the bases loaded. It was so bad. And the coach, who really got screwed on that play, just came up to me and said, "Where did you get him?" I said, "I'm sorry. He's an actor. I needed somebody because my regular guy didn't show up." It was awful.
Tim, I thought that umpiring would be like a nice retirement job for you. You'd go around, do youth leagues, but it seems like you've done this. How far do you think you could have gone, Tim, if you would have pursued this instead of writing?
I would not have been a good umpire because, frankly, and I've told you guys this, behind the plate is a terrifying place to be when people are throwing 100 miles an hour, and the only thing protecting you is a catcher, some equipment, and a chest protector that if it hit me there, it would go all the way through my body and hit the screen on the fly like some bad cartoon. I've maintained, and you guys will yell at me again, I maintain the average fan wouldn't last 10 pitches back there as an umpire before he said, "All right, get me out of here. This is too dangerous and this is too scary." So I think my judgment on umpiring was pretty good when I was young, and I think I could work the bases, but I don't want any part of going behind the plate when somebody's throwing 100 miles an hour.
You'd be fine. I could do it for at least 2 seasons. I imagine Tim Kurkjian, Billy, I imagine he doesn't punch you out. I imagine he says, "Hey, I'm sorry. That was strike 3.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
My deepest
Did you ever
apologies. I'm
change a
sorry.
call because someone was too mean to you?
One day umpiring, and this is like from a Woody Allen movie or something, the supervisor of umpires was at the game I was doing because I was a young umpire and he was just looking after me to make sure I was okay. And I had the plate, and there was a play, and I'm going to get yelled at by you guys on this too. There was a play at first where I called the guy out, safe, it doesn't matter. And I called him out, and the manager came out and started screaming at me and said, "Tie goes to the runner. tie goes to the runner. And he's screaming at me in front of everyone. So I have to explain to him, there is no such rule as tie goes to the runner. No umpire on any level has ever used that. It's not in the rule book. It is not a rule.
Story.
And this guy then proceeds to scream to the entire crowd. This guy doesn't even know the rules, to which the supervisor of umpires then came out of the stands, went up to the coach, screamed at the coach, then looked at the crowd and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, there is no such rule as tie goes to the runner. The umpire is right.
Yes.
The coach is wrong, and the coach needs to give an apology to my umpire." That all happened in front of everyone.
So how old were you? And you're telling us right now, I was not aware that that's not in the rule book. I still thought, I'm 53 years old this week, and I thought tie does go to the runner.
Dan, everyone thinks that. I'm just telling you that it's not in the rule book. And you ask any umpire that has worked on any legitimate level, and I didn't. I'm 16 and I'm working a little league game, but those are the rules, and no umpires ever say, "Oh, well, he was safe because it was a tie." There is no such thing, and 99% of the people out there think there is, and that doesn't make me some pedantic little twit. I'm just telling you, that's what it says in the rule book, and I read the rule book before I became an umpire.
Tim, so what happens when there's a tie?
Well, it's as the umpire says, it's not a tie. He was out or he was safe. Again, there's no explaining it. Look, there's so many rules in the rule book that cannot be explained. The whole check swing thing drives me crazy. There's nothing in the rule about a check swing. What is a check swing? We don't even know what the word is. Did he check his swing? Was it a checked ED swing? I mean, I'm not saying the rules are great. I'm just saying that this is the way the rule book is written.
I love all of these questions. I've never asked myself whether it's a check swing or a checked swing. What is the answer to that question? I thought I would have assumed it's a checked swing.
I can't believe there's nothing in the rule book about check swings.
I can't believe tie doesn't go to the runner.
It's all stunning. These are stunning things he's revealing again and again. Does Tim Kurkjian look more like an Italian tailor from a spy thriller or like a high school chemistry teacher who casually exclaims, "Whoopsie daisy," after accidentally creating mustard gas? Which one would you select there?
I
not you.
don't know.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking the group there. I don't. Which one would you guys choose? Because he does look like an Italian tailor.
Oh, I disagree.
No,
Mustard gas.
Mustard gas, definitely mustard gas.
Okay.
Also a World War I buff who is then a chemistry teacher who accidentally makes mustard gas.
Well, I wanted to run this by you guys. So I ran into a couple the other day, and I used to know the wife a long time ago, and I hadn't seen her in a long time. And she saw me like 6 months ago, and she said, "Tim, now that Paul Giamatti has lost a lot of weight, you look like Paul Giamatti." Does anybody see that at all?
Put it on the poll, Guillermo.
I'm not suggesting that I'm better looking than him or he's better looking than me or anything else, but how in the world do you get Paul Giamatti losing weight and looking like me? What does that mean?
Put this on the poll, Tim. Please put this on the poll for Tim. Does Tim Kurkjian look like Paul Giamatti? And also put on the poll, who is more clearly handsome? Tim Kurkjian or Paul Giamatti?
I mean, it's Kurkjian.
I just want to get to the bottom of this. At LeBatard Show, do you think, Tim, that Urban Meyer looks like he negotiates?
Hang on, guys. Hang on. Sorry. We've just pulled up a picture of Paul Giamatti from a recent episode of Billions. He looks like Tim Kurkjian.
Really?
I'm going to send this picture in the Zoom chat. He looks like Tim Kurkjian.
Okay, no way. It's impossible.
This is
uncanny.
This is not possible. Uncanny? What do you mean uncanny? You guys just interrupted the most sacred of things. I was right in the middle
of Famer.
of reading
Sacred schmacred.
an Urban Meyer looks like to Tim Kurkjian. Let's go ahead and put that up in the Zoom at your leisure here. And in the interim, I will just read him various looks like. Are you ready? Does Wayne Rooney look like a toy soldier? He really does. Does Brandon Staley look like the first person to be killed in a murder mystery on Netflix?
Holy shit, Dan. Oh my God.
Does it? Let's see what we have here.
Paul Giamatti looks exactly like Tim Kurkjian. I mean, the new Paul Giamatti looks exactly like Tim Kurkjian. You need to download that picture ASAP.
Well, let's reveal can we reveal to Kurkjian a photo now of Paul Giamatti? Can we have a reveal at some point during this conversation in the Zoom that allows us to reveal to Tim Kurkjian whether or not he looks like Paul Giamatti by putting it in front of him? Does Kirby Smart look like the fellow shopper who gives unsolicited advice at Home Depot? Are you laughing at these before? You're just Kirby Smart makes you laugh? Just the visual image of Kirby Smart?
No, I just love the way you deliver them, Dan. And when you give one, it reminds me of another one. Who's the Lego policeman? Which quarterback
That's
is the
Sam
Lego
Darnold.
policeman?
Sam Darnold. He's a Lego fireman. We need you guys to say. We need you guys to send your looks like to us at LeBatard Show, whatever it is you got, because the March tournament is coming up upon us, and we've got a whole bunch of them here to get to. With Tim. What are you laughing about, Stugotz? You're still laughing at
I
this
sent
photograph?
him the picture of Paul Giamatti so Tim could see it for himself.
Okay, so now you're just sending it to his text. All right, Tim, we will have the reveal. Tim is putting on his glasses here, and he will tell us whether he thinks he looks like Paul Giamatti.
Well, what celebrity do you think you look like, Tim?
Oh my God. I look like Paul Giamatti. This is unbelievable. I wasn't sure if I should be flattered or not, but I just didn't. And that guy's one of the greatest actors I've ever seen. I love the guy, but now the Stugotz picture makes me look like, so he looks just like me.
I know.
Oh God.
It's been a long time since we asked Tim Kurkjian to solve some of our moral dilemmas around here. So can someone recap for him the Chris Cody story, the dilemma?
Yes. So Chris Cody was leaving a local mall, and it was very busy on the eve of Christmas, obviously. And so there were two cars that were fighting over it. And so he walks to his car, and one of the cars gives up. But then another shows up, and Chris backs towards the initial claimer of the parking spot, and the other person comes in and takes it off him. So the two questions are, number one, when you're walking out to your car in a busy parking lot and multiple people are laying claim to it, do you need to point towards the car that is going to get the parking spot? And number two, do you need to set a pick by backing away from the car that's claiming it so that person can take it?
No, I don't think you need to be the arbiter you just have to say, I'm going to my car and I'm leaving. What bothers me a little bit is when somebody goes to the car with 6 people waiting and then sits in his car for 10 minutes, getting everything ready when clearly people are waiting. But I don't think it's up to me, who has already parked his car, to say, you're next. I'm not a parking attendant. I should just get in my car and get out of there. But look, this is me, fellas. I never, ever get involved in this. I will park a mile away from the mall or anywhere else just so I don't have to deal with what you're talking about. These people who take an hour to park their car to get 10 feet closer to the store or the mall, I don't understand it. Let's just park and get in and not have a fight over where you're going to park your car.
Does Urban Meyer look like he bought his wife a vacuum for Christmas? Does Urban Meyer look like he negotiates with kids at a lemonade stand? You can envision that one, could you not? Does Arthur Smith look like the coach in a movie about a gambling coach who got in deep with some sharks? He had to disappear to a small town in Wisconsin and ends up coaching a group of misfit kids to teach them about love and life. Arthur Smith looks truly disheveled. Tim, is anyone going to surprise us this offseason with what they do with their money, or are the the players that are now in the game, the players that are going to be in the game, and the free agent market is now, it's now essentially over for only open for smaller business?
No, I don't think we're going to see any surprises because Texas, even though it wasn't a surprise, because we knew the Rangers had money, and then they went and got a shortstop and a second baseman and spent almost $600 million doing it. That wasn't a shock, but now that they're off the board for the most part, I don't see, for instance, Detroit, which has done some pretty nice things so far. I don't see Seattle, let's say, coming in and just knocking some doors down. I just think the Yankees and the Dodgers, once the transaction freeze is over, and let's hope that sooner rather than later, I think we're going to see the big boys really get involved. And it's going to be a free agent frenzy as soon as the time comes, and it's going to be a crazy couple weeks before spring training begins. That's assuming we get this done, say, the first week of February, which we're all praying for. But I don't see a team coming out of nowhere. I think it's the big teams that say, all right, Yankees got to have a shortstop, got to do it now, and then they go get somebody.
Tim, the Marlins made some moves this offseason, but how do they realistically compete in the National League East with the Braves, Phillies, Mets, and even Nationals, who are, a little down right now?
All right. They're not, sorry, Billy, they're not going to compete this year for a playoff spot. They're just not there yet. You saw 2 years ago when they made the playoffs, what a terrible offensive team they were. It was a miracle they made the playoffs, and a tribute to everyone involved that they did. But they still don't have a good offensive team, and they're trying to get better. But the hope is for them, of course, is that young pitching is so good, and they have some young pitching that they can deal if they want to go get another hitter. But I just don't see them having enough offense to make a real dent in a very difficult division.
I think this one is too lowbrow, but I will read it anyway.
Okay.
Joe Judge looks like he's graded and ranked every fart he's ever had and still remembers the chili cook-off fart outbreak of 1997. I don't think that deserves your laughter. I think that is
it deserves my laughter, not Tim's.
I think we've run out of material here, Tim. Thank you for being on with us, Tim. It is good to catch up with you. It is good to see you again. And in all sincerity, because you haven't told us the story. I've read the story, but you haven't told us of how you learned that you became a Hall of Famer, because Stugotz, and this is not going to surprise you, our beloved friend, who really cares about that game still in a way that is unusual, and I think he would admit makes him a totally lopsided human being who cares way too much about this silliness and family, and basically those are the only two things that matter in the world, are family and baseball.
His job, yes. Family and his job.
But the way he loves this thing, he loves it in an unusual way, that when he got the news, I read this correctly, right, Tim, that you wept. You were moved to tears.
Yeah, and just to tell you the story, which I probably shouldn't, but I was nervous as could be a week ago Tuesday, so I was just trying to kill some time. So I went to Harris Teeter for groceries, which I do virtually every day anyway, because I do all the shopping and all the cooking, and I'm terrible at both. But I just decided to kill some time thinking if I get a call, it won't come for another 2 hours. So I was at the Harris Teeter in the self-service checkout line when Jack O'Connell, the Secretary Treasurer of the Baseball Writers of America, called me. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. I don't think he calls you if you lost. I think he only calls you if you win. So I was like dragging water across the scanner there. I picked up the phone and it was him. And he told me what happened, and I started to cry at the Harris Teeter. It was pretty embarrassing, but it was real and it was genuine. It was 41 years of deadlines and early flights and cutting out box scores. It kind of all felt like it was worthwhile. And if I may, and I know you guys don't like it when I get corny like this, but the next day, Wednesday, at 8:30 in the morning, Johnny Bench called me on the phone at my house and said, "Welcome to the club. You're one of us now." Wow. And I almost started to cry again. Johnny Bench, the greatest catcher ever, called to tell me that. Now, let's be clear one more time before I go. I am not a Hall of Famer. And certainly that distinction belongs only to the players. But when Johnny Bench called me on the phone, and he's never called me before, that was pretty cool, I must say.
Look at Mike Ryan. What are you looking at, Mike? Are you
well,
moved?
If
to
Johnny Bench himself is telling you, I think the Hall of Fame is reserved for the people that are the best in their field in this sport. And for my money, there is no better person in my lifetime at covering the game of baseball than Tim Kurkjian on merit. You're a Hall of Fame baseball writer. You're woven within the fabric of that sport. You're a Hall of Famer, Tim.
Well, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. And yes, there's a spot for me in the Hall of Fame, but there's a distinction there. But that's not the point. The point is I'm honored beyond belief. This has been the most overwhelming 8 days of my entire life. I'm not even sure what to do certain days, but it's gone really, it's been way more powerful than I thought. And I had Jason Stark and Dan Shaughnessy call me before the election to tell me, here's what you have to expect if you win. And I still wasn't ready for it when it happened.
A bit presumptuous of this Johnny Bench, making himself the captain of the welcoming committee.
Who is he? Calling you at your house?
Is it?
How do you get your number?
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Is it presumptuous of Johnny Bench to make himself the captain of the welcoming committee? Tim, you got anything to say to Billy on that?
Yes. Well, on the Friday night before every Sunday induction, whoever gets in that year gets to go to a players only dinner at the Hall of Fame. And Johnny Bench is the MC of that program that night. So there are all these Hall of Famers and only Hall of Famers in the room. And Johnny Bench is the MC, and he's great at it. Man. He's hilariously funny. He can really sing. But Barry Larkin told me that Friday night when Johnny Bench welcomed him into the club was like the best night he's ever had. It was even better in a way than Sunday when he was so nervous and had to get up in front and talk to people. But in that room filled with only Hall of Famers, with Johnny Bench running the show, Barry Larkin said it doesn't get any better than that.
The Binger Banger, the little general. Hench.
Thank you, Stugotz. Thank you,
compiler
for nothing. We're going to let you get out of here, Tim. But I do want, just so that the audience understands.
Play for the big red machine, Dano.
Thank you, Stugotz, for even
George Foster, Davey Concepcion.
Less than nothing. Thank you for less than nothing.
The Red Stockings, Dano.
Stugotz.
Yeah.
Can you articulate as a writer, Tim? You have made your living with words, written and spoken. Can you articulate for us why it is that Tim Kurkjian is moved to tears? Explain, articulate your love for this sport and what it means for you to be celebrated by this sport this way.
Well, it's the only language we spoke in my house growing up was baseball. My dad was a really good player, and he gave his three boys, he taught us how to play. He gave us a real love for the game and a real feel for the game. And as you know, I also went to Walter Johnson High School, named after the greatest pitcher of all time. I worked for the school paper. It was called The Pitch. I did some work for the yearbook. It was called The Windup. But I didn't play in college. My two brothers were great college baseball players. And they used to joke with me in our house that I was the only one who wasn't good enough, the three boys, to play college baseball. Then both of them went into the Hall of Fame for baseball at Catholic University. So then the joke became, Tim's the only one in the family who isn't in a baseball Hall of Fame. So I guess that changed a little bit 8 days ago. So
bleep them.
Talk your shit, Tim
bleep
Kurkjian.
them. Bleep
Talk
them.
your
bleep
shit.
Bleep off
No.
Kurkjian brothers. That's right. Tim Kurkjian got to the big Hall of Fame, the big one.
No. So again, this is the only thing I've ever really loved. I've told you I stink at everything. I love basketball. I really, really, really love baseball. And it has been a part of my life since I was 4 years old, and I still love it as much today as I always have. And I always think of my dad on, the day I went in and everything else. that's why I cry, because my father would have been happy about this.
Talk your shit. Tim Kurkjian rules. We are thrilled to have you around, the Hall of Famer, Tim Kurkjian. You could tell we're happy for you, Tim. Thank you, buddy. Always.
All kidding aside, thank you very much, you guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Does Adam Silver look like a pinky finger?